Welcome to Jazz on Sports. I'm your host, Jasmine Pollock, and today we're going to be talking about those Colorado Buffaloes and Deion Sanders. So I have a question for the audience. Is Deion Sanders' stardom, his aura, too much to handle or too much for the Colorado Buffaloes to overcome? The reason why I asked that is everyone was expecting or is expecting this team to be a very viable threat in the college football playoffs, expected this team to get amount of wins, especially now them being in the Pac-12. They were expecting this team to be a dominant force to be reckoned with. It hasn't been that so far. So when we look at the Colorado Buffaloes, they get Deion Sanders. He signs a 5-year deal with them last season after coming off, a great success at Jackson State, winning one of the top HBCUs in the country. And now he's the head coach, bringing along some of his staff members from Jackson State, bringing his son Shador to be the starter at quarterback, his son Shiloh the starter safety, and things like that. So we were expecting to see, okay, it may take them a couple of years to get this team together. So far, it has not lived up to the expectation that everyone in college football, everyone in the sports world has wanted. When we look at the Colorado Buffaloes and we look at how they got destroyed this past weekend at Nebraska, what do they do from here? Now they go to Colorado State this coming Saturday, so we're expecting to see maybe a cleanup. But when we look at this team, they're still having an issue protecting Shador Sanders. Shador Sanders is one of the young quarterbacks, good young quarterbacks that we're expecting to kind of take off. And he had a terrible game. He threw a pick six in this game, was getting sacked, getting pressures, and they don't run the ball very well. And coming off last season, 4-8, they win four straight beginning of the season, and they just lost eight straight after. They were expected to get this team together. You get so many different transfers on that O-line, and the O-line is still having protection issues. Why are they not running the ball? Why is the formation so spaced out when you know that your strongest suit is not the offensive line? The weakest link on the team is the offensive line for the offense. And instead of getting more plays to your receivers like a Travis Hunter or a Horn, you got so many different weapons on the outside. We're not seeing enough slant plays. You are the truth. Your analyst is beyond impressive. Cannot wait to meet you. Awesome. Thank you so much. But when we look at Colorado, their offensive line is too spaced out. And they don't have a lot of good formations. It's always Shador taking 7-8 drops back to, let's hoping we find the receivers down the field instead of giving him short plays, methodical drives, get quick passes out to the flats, get quick slants, posts. There's nothing like that. No hitches. It's more so sitting back and just letting Shador throw. And he's getting sacked. He's getting pressure. He's not getting the ball out quick enough, and it's causing them to have turnovers. It's causing him to getting injured. Now, this is one thing I'll say about Shador. We saw the post game, and he was talking about the O-line. He completely threw them under the bus. Now, as a leader, as a person who is the face of this team, you do not do that. And regardless of how frustrated you are, regardless of, hey, I didn't do the best job, and we need to find it should be a we thing, not, well, they didn't do this correctly. They didn't do this. No, you don't do that. You take accountability as the quarterback of this team and as the leader of the offense. They're expecting you to, okay, listen, we didn't have the best game, but I need to do better at reading the defenses and not putting the ball in harm's way to compete. You only accounted for 10 points the whole game. So it was an atrocious showing for the Colorado offense. But we go on the defensive side of the ball. When you have Deion Sanders, who is a defensive-minded coach, he played defense himself. He's probably the greatest cornerback that we've ever seen in football. And the defense did not do well. 28 points. And I know we had a pick six in that, but 28 points in the first half. Defense is not getting pressure. They don't know how to stop the run. Their tackling is not great. So where does Colorado say to themselves, we need to get a better team? And I know last year Deion got a lot of flack for cutting off a lot of those guys in Colorado that were already there, of making them get out of the transfer and go into the transfer portal and go. And they're like, we're not accepting this. We're bringing a whole new team in here. And the team is not showing up. I remember Shannon Sharp, and he is spot on with this, saying in order for Deion to compete at the highest level with a lot of these top schools, you got to strengthen that D-line and that offensive line. And he has not been able to do that. Now, the question that we have for Colorado is, where do you go from here? This is only season 2. This is game 2. So things can happen, but it's not going to get any easier down the road. But where do you go from here? You bring in Deion Sanders for 5 years, $5 million he's getting paid each year. That's a lot of money. And he's bringing in a lot of revenue into the school, not just into the school, but into the whole community at Boulder and different things like that. So where do you draw the line? Because we've seen a lot of coaches get fired for less. We've seen a lot of coaches who have coaching experience, in-depth coaching experience, maybe longer than Coach Sanders, that have lost their jobs. Does Colorado say, well, we're getting a lot of money, the ticket sales are going up, and even other schools, if Colorado's traveling, the ticket sales are a lot higher because it is Deion Sanders and he is primetime and his name rings bells. And that's why the title of this video is Deion's aura and his presence too much for Colorado to handle? And that's what it looks like so far today. And even though I love what Coach Prime stands for, I love what he is able to do, what he's been able to do so far, and how to get Colorado back to this conversation. And when we look at Colorado school, their African-American students, their acceptance of African-American students has jumped up 12%. So we look at that. That has a lot to do with him and what he's able to bring in, that swagger. But at what cost? They're not winning. They're not performing at the level that they should. And I get it's only season 2 for him. But I think right now they have to completely revamp and reset and get a new scheme in place, especially for Shedeur. Shedeur is not a run-first quarterback. He's not that kind of quarterback. He is a quarterback that is a pocket passer, and he is very talented. But where is the methodical drives? Where are the slants? Where is getting the running backs out and flat? They cannot run between the tackles because the offensive line is not strong enough. They finished last in the division last year. And when you're playing up against other opponents like in Nebraska, I already knew that they were going to struggle against Nebraska, because you're in that environment. That team is going to be amped up because we've seen Shedeur and Coach Prine, a lot of the players talking, and teams are going to always be up to play them and show that, hey, we're going to show up against them. That's kind of what has been happening to Colorado. And it is unfortunate because you have kids who did leave, who Coach Prime sent out, that could they have potentially been, in place? Could they have been in a good situation and probably gave them a slight opportunity in some areas? That is yet to be determined. When we look at this O-line, I go back to it, a lot of it is transfers. All of it is transfers from UTEP, from UConn, from Jackson State, different places like that. They're not from big name schools. They're from schools that have struggled in the past in college football, and you go get those guys. And I'm not calling these guys scrubs at all. I'm just saying, if you have this kind of offensive line that is not as strong and is not able to protect Shedeur, you need to have a better offensive game plan. And that's what has not happened, and is the question of, can Coach Prime make in-game adjustments? Now, one highlight I do want to say from the Nebraska game is, even though the defense gave up that many points in the first half, they didn't let them score in the second half. So there was adjustments on the defensive side of the ball to prevent them from scoring in the second half, but the offense didn't give them anything. So when we look at that, the defense did make adjustments. They did. I think they in halftime, they got a fire lit under them, say, we need to fix this. But they can't keep continuing to rely on the ability of just Shedeur or Travis Hunter or a lot of the star players that they have. You can't continuously, they're going to make a play. No, this needs to be a team effort, because there's other guys that should be able to get off the blocks, to get blocks, to run down the field, to make sure that they're catching and different things like that. So I want to know, people in the comments, is this too hot to handle for the Colorado Buffaloes? Even though, like, where we are, especially how college football is changing with the transfer portal and the NIL deals and different things like that, does Colorado say, look, in season 2, we need to see if he can double the amount of wins that he did last year? Because if you perform worse than you did, then there's another conversation of, is this a good fit for you? Is this a good fit for Colorado? And that is a big question. I know we don't like to ask that question because we love and respect what Coach Prime has done, especially financially, economically for the school. But it's about wins. If you're not winning, yeah, you're bringing all this money. There's a conversation that the Colorado administration has to have, the athletic department have to have it at some point, of whether you go get somebody strictly for recruiting, you get someone that understands offenses, you get someone that understands defense and how to coach them. Do you do that, especially in the Pac-12, where a lot of schools have left, like Oregon and USC, who are now in the Big Ten? So now you have Utah, you have Baylor, you have those schools like that are still lingering around. But why can't Colorado break that mold? So for Coach Prime, I think that it's a dire situation. You have to double your wins. Last year, you got 4 wins. Now you kind of have to get 8. You have to get above 4. So it's the schedule is not going to be easy. You play Utah, you play these big schools, you play Baylor. These schools are no pushover. You play Oregon State, who is very good. So what is going to happen? And I would love people to chime in and see if, where do you stand with Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes? Are they a team? Is he bigger than the program? And it seems like that. Or can the program overcome his aura and compete as much as he is a competitor? Because we've seen so many times where you have a star player, like so many. You look at Michael Jordan and the Hornets, phenomenal player, but then it doesn't translate in that, off the court thing. So is that what's happening with Colorado and Coach Prime? And more questions just down the line. Shedeur and Travis Hunter are potentially going to go into this draft. What is the future for that after that? What quarterback are you going to get to replace? Is this going to be the same thing? You're not going to – Travis Hunters don't come every day. Playing both sides of the field, getting these X amount of snaps on both sides of the field, playing offense, then jumping right back on defense, trying to guard the star corner while being guarded by another star corner in the game. So you're not going to see a lot of Travis Hunter. So what is Colorado going to do if he decides to leave and venture off into his NFL career? That's going to be a lot of questions. But that wraps up the show. I hope Colorado gets it together. They do go to Colorado State, their in-state rival. And that game last season was a triple overtime. So we're hoping we might see that same thing this weekend with him. So we're going to check it out. I hope that Colorado is able to turn around. They need to get a better scheme in place. They are last right now in their division. They're 1-1. I get it. But how they lost to a Nebraska team who they should be, competing against, they did not compete. So a lot of these big schools have been showing them up a lot, and it's sending a message to Deion and the rest of the college football world. But that wraps up the show. Make sure to subscribe to Jazz on Sports. We have a lot more content coming out this week, and I'm really excited to do a wrap-up. I'm going to do a wrap-up of this football weekend because there's a lot to discuss. But today I just want to dissect what Colorado is and if this program is under fire because of the aura of Coach Prime. That wraps up the show. Thank you all, and see you guys next time.